Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Mark Wourms, Executive Director of Bernheim Forest, correct?
Correct.
Cool. Well, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
It's my honor.
So, I love all things nature and conservation and everything. And so when I heard about this situation, essentially that was happening kind of in my own backyard, I wanted to reach out and talk to somebody about it and everything. But I'll hand it off to you to kind of, tell the audience the situation that's going on at Bernheim Forest and, just kind of what's going on.
Sure. First, maybe just a little bit about Bernheim Forest, because it's a rather unique place in the eastern United States and certainly here in Kentucky. And that is that we are celebrating our 90th anniversary this year.
Nice.
And so 90 years ago, our founder, Isaac Wolf Bernheim, who made a lot of money in the bourbon distilling industry, at the age of 65 decided to give back to the people of Kentucky for allowing him to live the American dream.
Cool.
And so he bought 13,300 acres of land that was old, decrepit, over-farmed, over-logged, in some cases minerals removed. And he knew that nature was restorative and regenerative. And he believed that all people, regardless of race, creed, or economic status, would benefit from time in nature.
Nice.
And so he created the Isaac Wolf Bernheim Foundation and Bernheim Arboretum and Research Forest.
Nice.
So this year we're celebrating our 90th anniversary, as I said, and we are now 16,137 acres in size. So we've been adding some land for conservation purposes primarily. And of course our mission is connecting people with nature on this 25.5 square miles of land that we have.
Nice.
So we have some wonderful things going on to connect people with nature, from art and nature to research to educational programs and big public events. So that is Bernheim.
Nice.
Well, for the first time in 90 years, we are faced with two threats, two external threats. One is LG&E, Louisville Gas and Electric, wants to push a pipeline through our conservation land. That pipeline would carry natural gas. And so the threat is, one, that a swath 4,000 feet long, 3/4 of a mile long, and up to 75 feet wide would be cut through our forest. The pipeline dug through, regardless of springs and streams and hillsides and erosion, would be cut through our land and would be forever maintained, we hope, because we know what happens when pipelines are not properly maintained. So that is one threat that we're facing right now. The second threat, at the same time, is a study by the Department of Transportation looking at proposed routes for a interstate connector. And this would be from I-65 that heads north-south to the east-west I-71. And in Louisville, we already have the Watterson connector, I-264. We already have the Gene Snyder interstate connector, which is the outer loop, 265. And they're proposing some route for yet another connector between those highways. The trouble of that is that there are 12 study routes, and at least 4 or 5 of those would cut across Bernheim land if they're adopted. And that, of course, would be a huge take of Bernheim, but it would also be a huge take of farmland and open space and other forest lands and horse land and everything else, right up through about 4 or 5 counties. So these two threats are facing Bernheim for the first time in 90 years.
Is this the first time that y'all have faced, like, any threat of anything cutting through, or is it the first time that two things have been
Well,
proposed?
little both. We do have some existing pipelines cutting across Bernheim. And part of that is because we've been pieced together over time. Part of that is, at the time, people thought, well, for the war effort or those kinds of things, We need to do this. Well, this now is about just sheer economic development.
Right.
Now, let me say this very clearly. Bernheim's not against economic development.
Right.
And we're not against any kind of regional growth. But what we want to do is do that in a planned way, a smart way, a way where conservation can keep track, can keep up with development.
Yeah.
And right now, conservation lands are rare, and Kentucky has very few conservation easements on lands. And so to break a conservation easement, we can talk about that in a minute, is a horrible precedent.
Well, I was looking online at some of what was going on too, and apparently there are, I want to say, protected species and things like that are in Bernheim as well. If this highway or expressway and pipeline are gone through there, what would be the overall just kind of environmental impact if they were to end up doing that?
Well, one of the unique aspects about Bernheim environmentally is it's large, and it's largely unbroken. We have very few roads crossing that 16,000 acres. We have very few transmission lines or pipelines crossing that 16,000 acres. Every time you create a new break, that reduces the integrity of the forest. That reduces the resilience of the habitat. That affects what species can live there. Bernheim is world famous because we're tracking golden eagles from Kentucky, here in Kentucky, that spend their winters at Bernheim, all the way up to the Hudson Bay of Canada. And we have solar-powered backpacks on those, a male and a female. And the male is Harper and the female is Athena.
Wow.
And we're tracking them back and forth. And what we're learning is they stop every night at a new protected area and a new large forest block.
Wow.
They don't put up with all kinds of people.
Right.
So if Bernheim gets cut up too much, or these other blocks of land get cut up too much, the golden eagle in the eastern United States is really in trouble.
They'll stop coming.
That's an example of what happens. Now, the other thing that happens is every time you cut these up, pipeline or particularly a highway, you're adding air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, industrial and residential development along those routes.
Yeah.
And of course, that unfortunately, that tragedy that happened just a few weeks ago was south of here, the explosion of the pipeline that killed one person and injured several others.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Imagine if that took out several thousand acres of forest with a forest fire.
Yeah.
That's really tough. So that's a worst case scenario, but things like that happen.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is keep Bernheim intact. We want to keep that integrity there because large species, unique species, need it. Indiana bat and the northern long-eared bat are two endangered bat species that use the forests of Bernheim because of the water, because of the size of the forest blocks, because of the age of the trees. And so we don't want to lose all of that.
Yeah.
So.
What can, if people, hear about this or read about it online, what can the community do to kind of help?
Well, what people have to understand, just like any cause, their voices matter. Your voices matter to help people understand that you care about the land, you care about future health and well-being of our communities, because we are providing clean air, clean water, beauty, nature, biodiversity, jobs. Right now, Bernheim is bringing in 450 to 500,000 people this year because we're an ecotourism center, and the forest giants and the giant forests are just a huge hit on the internet. So people are coming from all 50 states and many foreign countries to see these forest giants.
That's pretty cool.
So we're putting heads in beds and people in grocery stores and gas stations and everywhere else. And that's an important economic driver. So we're proud of that contribution to our communities. But the point is, your voices matter. So you can go to Bernheim, www.bernheim.org, or you can go to forestunderthreats.com, canopyforest.com.
Cool.
And there you'll find a whole toolkit of ways you can make a difference. There's petitions you can sign automatically. There's letters you can sign and send automatically. There's letters you can download and add your own notes to and send. There's additional addresses for emails and phone calls. And I'll tell you, it's really important that people hear phone calls and get personal letters on these kinds of issues. Your voice can make a difference.
Yeah, I believe that. Cool. So that's another question I wanted to ask about the forest giants. I think they're fascinating, but I have no idea how they got there. And I was wondering what is the story behind the forest giants?
Well, it's a wonderful story.
Yeah.
And first of all, I will tell you, whether you're 2 or 92, when you go up to these forest giants, you smile. Yeah. It's almost just that simple. They're just a delight and a surprise and amazingly powerful. What they are 3 recycled wood sculptures created by a Danish artist, Thomas Dambo.
Okay.
And Thomas came over, was invited to look at Bernheim, and this took almost 2 years to get him in place. Yeah. But he came over and looked at this, and the reason we wanted to bring in these forest giants was in celebration of our 90th anniversary.
Nice.
And so we wanted to connect people with nature in a very unique way, and we wanted to do it big. So what's bigger than a giant?
Right, exactly. and where they're placed, too, is actually... It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we have 3 of these that were built by Thomas and 8 of his artists and friends and 200 volunteers at Bernheim in about a 6-week period. And they are magical. It is Mama Limari, who is the mama, and she's kind of sleeping and resting under a tree in one area of the forest. Little Nis, who's the youngest son, and he's just crawled out of the forest, and he's looking at himself in a reflection of an Olmsted pond. And then he's thinking to himself, how can I be a forest hero? What can I do to protect this forest? And then there's the daughter, Elena, and she is placing stones. And she, you don't see her move much. They don't move when people are around. But she's still working on this project. And she's placing stones and creating a golden eagle feather.
Nice.
So that we can too tell that story about the protection of golden eagles and their need for large forest blocks.
Cool.
And so these forest giants have been only a few months in Bernheim, and yet they're created a wonderful series of images on all the social media. Look them up. You'll find some beautiful images.
I have so many friends who have already posted pictures of them posing with the giants or something like that. And it's obviously been a huge attraction. But I wanted to ask you, as executive director, what's some of your favorite things about Bernheim Forest, and what are some of your favorite memories?
Oh my. Well, some of my favorite memories. Well, I'll give you one that involves the giants. Just a few, probably a month and a half, 2 months ago. Elena had a bracelet on that the artist put on her as part of her decorations on one wrist, and it was a simple wire, and it had a few quartz crystals attached to those wires. Well, somebody who didn't use very good judgment stole them.
Oh.
And you know what? Social media went on fire. People were just outraged that somebody would have the gall to do that to such a beautiful work.
Right.
Well, in response, we now have a community of people who are bringing beautiful little trinkets out to Elena, and her bracelet is now sometimes thick as a inner tube,
or something.
A wreath, and they're decorating her hair and all kinds of stuff. And so what it created was this public outreach to say, hey, we want to respect these creatures, this art. We want to respect what it means for the forest and show that people are good at heart.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the kind of story that lingers with me.
Yeah.
Another story is that we've had a number of people over the years who have said, I'm coming out to Bernheim regularly because I'm terminally ill.
Oh, wow.
And when I get in nature like this, it gives me a solace, a peace, a tranquility that I can find in no other way.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
I'll tell you right now, going up on that Canopy Walk.
Oh, yes.
Where all the leaves change and everything. Yeah. For those of you who haven't been there, find the Canopy Walk at Bernheim. But getting to the top of that and walking
so when
out
you're
there,
out at the edge of this platform that we built on the side of a hill, you're actually 70 feet above the forest floor.
That's amazing. And it literally feels healthy to be up there. I know exactly like what they mean. There's something about nature that is just, it's good for you.
Yes.
But one of the things that I also wanted to ask was, I was out there with my girlfriend a couple months ago, and I saw this lady. She was not on one of the trails, but she was off near a creek, and she was taking measurements. And when I talked to her, she was studying the impacts of like human interaction for certain environments and everything. Like if you literally did a footprint like near a creek, like what would that do to the erosion? How would that change the stream and all that? What I was wanting to know is what is y'all's involvement with the education community and everything? Like, what all do you guys do with that?
Well, first of all, we have a vibrant education and research programs, and we have great staff in both of those areas as well. And so we bring out over 10 to 14,000 students a year to go through formal programs at Bernheim, formal educational programs. A lot of those deal with water quality issues, understanding how rainfall is filtered by the forests and the limestone rock and is purified in those processes, and how it becomes groundwater, and that groundwater contributes to rivers, and of course that's the water we end up drinking.
Right.
Other programs can be very simple about arts and nature and understanding beauty and creativity and those kinds of things. We have a huge program in outdoor play, in free play as we call it. And that's where kids can be kids, and they make up their own games, they make up their own rules, and there's a lot of academic studies that show that this is good for childhood development, it's good for understanding risk, it's good for school readiness, it increases creativity. It really is great for the social behavior of children to play naturally outdoors.
Yeah, of
and
course.
So we now have a network of people throughout the region who are doing this in neighborhoods, in Louisville, in Bardstown, Elizabethtown, Frankfurt, et cetera, and smaller communities throughout, trying to get kids outdoors to play naturally. So Bernheim has big programs in education, wonderful events in education. In fact, Colorfest, our fall event in October, is often very, very busy because it's a combination of both just fun and learning. And of course, if the trees are hitting, if the leaves are in full color, it's absolutely striking. But we also then have research programs that occur. And those research programs might be the impacts of people on nature. It might be the effects of fire, controlled fires, on the regeneration of oak trees and why that isn't occurring properly in the East Coast. Or, as I said before, it might be tracking golden eagles all the way to Canada and back.
That's cool.
And everything in between. So, it's one of the things I do like about Bernheim. And one of the things that you asked, what are some of the things I like best, is I often get this reaction when people truly understand all the programs and activities going on out there with such a small staff. It's sort of like, wow, I had no idea. And that's it. There's always something to discover at Bernheim.
I love that. That's cool. So what are, you mentioned Color Festival in October. What are some of the regular events that occur on a yearly basis, in case, if somebody wants to plan a weekend or something like that to go out to Bernheim, but they want to see what's happening there? What all goes on?
Well, August, and we just had it this last weekend, is one of my favorite events. It's called Connect. And we had 6,000 of our best friends out there for a 4-hour event, 2 hours before sunset and 2 hours after sunset.
Wow. And
I describe it as a collision between arts, science, and nature.
Nice.
And so there's wonderful music, there's kids-friendly play areas, including a mud pit, which is often enjoyed by kids and adults.
Okay.
And there's burning sculptures on the lake. There's beautiful, activity with drum circles and all kinds of things. So, our events are always to be held. They're just always something fun to discover.
Cool. So one of the other questions I wanted to ask was, since Bernheim is a conservation of nature, there is, I think we probably just hear about it daily, about our impact on the world, our impact on the environment, and even basically what's been going on in the Amazon. I don't know if you've heard anything about that. I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts as the executive director of a conservation on at least the Amazon forest? Do you know anything about that?
Well, I've been following it just like you have in the news, and that is that to say that it's the lungs of our world is not an overstatement. Yeah. And to have those lungs on fire is really a sad thing to understand. But I will tell you what my takeaway from all of these reports from the United Nations, from scientists around the world, from many scientific bodies, is that we need to understand that climate change is happening now, and we have to take some dramatic steps. In my opinion, that's opportunities to create a new way of living, to create a softer way to interact with the earth, and still move the human condition upward. Because we do have to provide better food and better water and better housing for people around the world. And I believe we can do that if we learn from nature and have less impact on resources, on water, on air, on wildlife. And we can eat healthier in the process as well. So to me, it's a doom and gloom kind of scenario, and we're running out of time, but the opportunity is there for us to change course. And so Bernheim leads the way. We have a platinum LEED certified visitor center, which is as energy efficient and has other really cool attributes to it. Cool. It's as energy efficient as it can get. We have a living building challenge edible garden where we're growing produce to show people how to do that, and we're serving that at our cafe. So it's as local, organic, and delicious as anybody could ever ask for. Nice. And we're teaching kids how to grow vegetables and do other kinds of science in that garden as well. But we're also restoring streams. Many small streams in Kentucky have been moved by farmers to one side or the other of a valley. We've restored one stream already to meander down this valley, which cleans the water, provides habitat, etc., etc. And we're about to do a second stream. So we're very excited about that. We run living roofs, green roofs in downtown Louisville because the heat bouncing off of roofs or being absorbed by roofs is really counterproductive to the health of the human people who live there, and it's heating that city. And so what we're doing by growing roofs, literally growing plants on roofs, we use that light and heat energy to positive. And we're creating habitat for birds and butterflies on the roofs instead of heating up the city. So Bernheim takes active roles in all of this with planning and looking for ways to create jobs and create opportunities and create beauty while addressing climate change.
Cool. So we're dealing with this pipeline kind of going right through Bernheim, and so all up until now, Bernheim has been pretty well taken care of and kind of isolated and whatnot. But from what you can observe, do you notice or see any changes in Bernheim Forest from outside development of like infrastructure of our city or anything that we're doing outside of the environment of Bernheim?
Well, it's really interesting because we used to think of conservation as saving a place. Right. And no matter what size it was, saving that island of land was important, or saving that one stream was important. What we now realize is that that's not good enough. If you want to be here for 90 years and 90 more after that and 900 after that, then what you need to do is create connectivity. You got to connect with other protected lands, so that what you do is create this network, this spider web of protections, and these corridors, so wildlife can move back and forth, so that species can seed up to the north as it warms, or down to the south, or whatever the needs are of those species.
Right.
And so that's what Bernheim's really working on. What we're noticing is Louisville and the whole region is growing so rapidly. And the old model of building roads to move trucks and cars is the old model of how we're going to grow.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to say is, guys, let's provide the energy that people need, but also let's look at green energies where we can.
Yeah.
Let's provide the road systems, but you know what? Maybe that means improving existing roads rather than cutting through the earth to create new ones.
Yeah.
So it's about, let's look at the future in a different way and figure out how to have win-win situations for the environment, for wildlife, for water and air, and people.
So you want both sides to come out on a positive note. If you had it your way, what would this situation end up looking like?
Well, I think what would happen in the short term, a pipeline would be built, but it would be built through existing right-of-ways, so that not new land is taken or new communities disrupted or have to worry about a pipeline right through their backyard.
Okay.
If we had our way, we wouldn't build a whole new highway system. We can't maintain the ones we have now.
Right.
We would improve the roads and local conditions and do some better regional planning, so that we aren't creating congestion by putting too much in one space. Rather, let's put nodes of activities along existing roads so you spread out the pressure.
Yeah.
Those are things. But I would also say the long term is really looking at, wait a minute, what is transportation going to be in the future? Let's start asking that question. And that's a big question right now. And the other one is, let's look at green energies and how to be energy efficient. If LG&E doesn't want to build a pipeline through Bernheim, well then let's push conservation of existing energies.
Yeah.
Let's insulate homes. Let's reduce the use by industries. Let's really push and give incentives for people to save energy.
Yeah.
Not much of that occurs. Some does, but not much.
Wow.
So, we need to think, Bernheim likes to think, we're celebrating 90 years. We're already thinking about the next 90.
I feel that. That's cool. Well, a couple more questions, and
Sure.
My next one I want to ask is, as executive director of Bernheim Forest, all up until now with the pipeline, what has been some of your greatest tasks or challenges in your time with Bernheim?
Well, I think it's one of the true successes has been that Bernheim was a little bit of an island, in that if you made your way to Bernheim, you had a great day in nature for many years. But Bernheim didn't do much as far as reaching out and really inviting people in or engaging in some of the local community issues and activities. And that's changed quite a bit over the last few years. And so we're really proud of the fact that now Bernheim is interacting with communities and inviting underserved communities in to our gates and figuring out ways to do that. Cool. And by the way, Bernheim has a $10 recommended donation. That's $10 per car, and it's a recommended donation.
Okay.
If anybody ever says to us, I don't want to pay, I can't pay, or can I give you $2?
Right.
We let you in.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. We're not going to let money get in the way of admission.
Right.
We want people to connect with nature.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of the way we've been reaching out over the last bunch of years. The other is that we're proud of the fact that people are starting to understand some of what Bernheim has to offer. There's more visibility about our story and our mission and our vision. And so people are understanding that we're doing some of the research that needs to be done for Central Kentucky. We're having some of the fun education programs that need to occur here in Central Kentucky. And people are starting to understand that we've actually had a global reach for many years.
Yeah.
We're celebrating our 40th anniversary of our artist in residency program next year.
Oh, cool.
For 40 years, well, 39 years this year,
Yeah.
we've had artists in residence. And they've been fabulous people from throughout the United States, but also from, I don't know how many countries, 27 different countries. And in fact, last year when we put out our call for residencies, and we have 3, we had 160 some applications from something like 37 states and 28 countries. So, people have known about Bernheim worldwide, even better than maybe they've known about Bernheim in Louisville or in this region.
Yeah.
So we're trying to change that. But we're very proud of the fact that we're bringing the world to Kentucky and Kentucky to the world, because we're proud to be here.
Yeah.
We love Kentucky, we love the people of Kentucky, and we love the wildlife of Kentucky, and we really want to celebrate those.
Nice. Cool. All right, well, I typically, near the end, I do some rapid-fire questions with my guests to kind of learn a little bit more about you.
I'm ready.
And just feel free to answer what you can. What is your favorite movie or your top 3 favorite movies?
Oh, my gosh. Oh, I'm terrible at these kinds of because I never remember the movie names. I hate to say it's probably one of the Tarantino movies. So
oh, yeah?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a dark humor side.
Did you see the newest one?
I haven't yet.
I haven't either, and I want to. I'll probably go see it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But, all right, cool. What's one of your favorite books or your top 3 favorite books?
American Canopy is one that I read probably a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And it's this wonderful look at history of the United States, and from founding, or from colonialism all the way to, I don't know, Roosevelt or something, but kind of based on the impact that the tree canopy has had.
Yeah.
And so it's just a wonderfully written history of the United States.
Cool. What is some of the best advice you've received in your lifetime? And that one's kind of a hard question. Maybe.
Actually, that's an easy one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
One of the best things I've been told is to enjoy people and listen to people.
Wow.
And the first one is easy. The second one takes intention.
Yeah.
And so, I find I really do enjoy people of all ilk, and I try to listen to people.
Nice.
And I try. And sometimes I'm better than other times, but I love it when I really hear somebody.
Cool. If you could travel to any place in the world that you haven't been to yet, where would you go?
Probably Antarctica.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm worried that it's not going to be there for that much longer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, kind of sad. But I think that the ice caps, are documented as melting. That's causing all problems in the north for polar bears, and in the south for penguins.
Did you hear about that iceberg in Greenland?
Yes.
What do you think about that? Because it was a small post that I saw, and I was like, well, that's sad, but I probably wouldn't understand the impact as much as you do.
Well, the interesting part is that's the first time in human history that we've truly documented, quote, the death of a glacier. And so that glacier stopped moving a few years ago, and now it's actively receding.
Yeah.
And it will no longer, there's no model that says it will ever regrow.
Wow.
So it's essentially the first time we've ever seen a glacier die.
Wow. If you could educate the audience about something with conservation and nature, what is one thing that you would want them to know right off the bat?
That they can make a huge difference in their own home and backyard.
Yeah?
Honestly.
How can they?
Oh, well, one, people don't realize that many of us have dogs or cats as pets.
I have 6.
And and disposing of those fecal material really affects water quality.
Yeah.
So that's a real important one. Get out there and pick up.
Yeah.
But the other is by planting native plants in your yard, you can actually enhance your insect population. Some people say, I don't want to do that. I don't want insects.
Right.
But insects are the building block of many food chains.
Yep.
And most insects are a beautiful addition to a yard and not a pest.
Yeah.
So, and then pollinators are in trouble, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make a huge difference in your home,
Mm-hmm.
turning down the
thermostat.
Yeah. A little bit in the winter and turning it up a little bit in the summer.
Yeah.
So you're using less energy.
Mm-hmm.
The way you use water, the products you put down your toilets and drains,
Yeah.
all make a difference.
Wow.
It really, we forget how many things we do on a day-to-day basis that impacts
Yeah.
the environment beyond our homes and our yards.
Yeah. And then speaking of insects, actually, I wanted to ask you about that. I know a lot of bee farmers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was wondering if Bernheim had anything to do with bees. Like, do you guys do anything with bees?
We do. We have a number of hives that are maintained by volunteers, and we actually both sell and give away some of that honey.
Okay,
and
cool.
So it's really fun. And then and we do educational programs. So we get kids up in bee suits, and they get to care for the hives and
Wow.
learn about bees. But also, we know that we have at least 27 species of native bees
wow.
that we've identified. And the native bee populations are as important as the honeybees.
Yeah.
So there's a lot we do with bees.
Cool. Well, my last rapid fire question.
I'm not so rapid though, am I?
No, you're totally good. Mark, how would you say you are living your life on a mission? What is your life mission?
Well, my life mission has always been to turn people on to nature
Mm-hmm.
and let them understand how important it is to the world, to the community, and to themselves.
Nice.
Because when you're really connected with nature, you're connected with something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, Mark, thank you for being on the show. I want to give you an opportunity one more time to give the websites out where people can help. What are they one more time?
Well, you can go to bernheim.org or forestunderthreat.com.
Any social media?
Yeah, we're all over Facebook and all
Okay.
those others.
Cool.
So just look us up. And it's a real honor to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. And please, your voices are important.
Thank you so much, Mark. Guys, I will post that information below when I release this episode. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you learned something new today. I definitely did. And we will see you next time.